Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Wild Bill Kelso here, and today I'm going to be going over with all of you the gear that I wear for my World War II Army Air Force reenacting. I'm going to the Memphis Belle unveiling in Ohio in a couple weeks, and this is the gear, the flight gear that I'll be wearing during the 3 days that I'll be out there. The impression I'm going for is an 8th Air Force bomber pilot early in 1943, and so this is just an example of the type of gear and equipment that they would be wearing while flying those missions. And to start off, I'm going to start right here. This flight suit you see here, this is the A4 flight suit. This is an early war flight suit that was used by the Army Air Force during the war, but it was replaced by a later flight suit, the ANS-31, but the A4 was used throughout the end of the war. Even though new flight suits were being produced, they still continued to use the existing stocks of the A4s that were already produced. This flight suit's a reproduction made by What Price Glory. I'm just going to show you guys the tag right there. So it's a really nice reproduction. I really like it. I've compared it to a couple originals that I own, and this is actually pretty spot on to the originals. Up here, these are my original A6A flying boots. These were standard issue to all air crew in World War II, pilots, bombardiers, navigators, fighter pilots, gunners. Anybody who was basically flying in the Army Air Force used these, especially when they were flying at high altitude. These are sheepskin lined. These are original. These are rare. These are rare size. These are a size extra large, and these fit between a 10.5 and 11.5 shoe, which works for me because I wear size an 11.5 shoe. They had a couple tears on them, as you can see, but I was able to repair those with some thread. And when you look at original pictures of bomber crewmen during World War II, you'll see on their boots a lot of times that they're actually pretty worn out. So I actually like the fact that I have these repairs made, because it looks like it was actually a period repair, which was actually done a lot of times. Right here is my What Price Glory B3 Mae West. This is the standard issue life preserver that was used in the beginning and middle of the war. By the end of the war, this was pretty much phased out. It was replaced by the B4, which was made of a much different material. But the B3 still occasionally pops up in photographs up until 1945. But for the impression I'm going for, which is a bomber crewman in the spring of 1943, this is perfectly acceptable. In fact, this was the majority of time a crewman in that stage of the air war would have been issued a B3. Right here is my A8B oxygen mask. This is another reproduction made by What Price Glory. This is a really nice reproduction. Original A8B masks are pretty much impossible to find, and if you find one, it's going to be in really bad condition. Like the rubber will usually be like hardened or rotted. So What Price Glory is reproducing these, and I gotta admit they do a really good job at it. I really like this reproduction mask. It's got the straps and everything to go around my head. So that's that. Right here we have my leather flying gloves. These are reproductions of the F2-F3 heated flying glove. Early on in the war you would have been issued the F1, but they're pretty much the same exact design. There's a few different pattern changes, but nobody reproduces the F1 flying glove. All I can get with the F2 and F3, so I'm not really going to worry that much about that. Right here we have my headset. This is an original R14 headset. Well, the earphones are called R14. The headset itself is called the HB7. This is original. The receivers are still working. I actually tested them. They still work, and they have the early war sponge type ear pads. If you look up here, the guy's name and his serial number is etched into the leather. Right here we have my SW141V push to talk switch. This was used to communicate with all the other members of the crew. Basically, I had my throat microphone, which is right here, which is around my throat. It goes around my Adam's apple, or just above my Adam's apple, on my throat. And this is what I would use to talk to the other members of the crew on the airplane. But in order to do that, I would have to use this, because basically the throat microphone plugs in to the switch like this. I can't really do it right now because I'm holding the camera. But basically, after it plugs in, I would just press this switch down here, and this would allow me to communicate and talk to everybody else that was on the crew. Right here, we just have my reproduction flight bag. This is made by World War II Impressions. I've had this for years. It's held up very well. And last but not least, over here we have my parachute harness. This is a reproduction of what's known as the RAF Observer harness. This was not an American-made harness. This was a British harness made for the Royal Air Force. During World War II, when the 8th Air Force was first established, and even through the end of the war, a lot of times you'll see guys in the 8th Air Force wearing these harnesses because it was just easier for the 8th Air Force, which was stationed in England, to procure harnesses from the Royal Air Force or from the factories that were making these harnesses for the Royal Air Force, since they're right there in England, as opposed to manufacturing American-made harnesses, loading them on ships and shipping them overseas. So it was just a lot easier, and it made the supply chain took a lot of stress off the supply chain to supply the bomber crews. And especially in 1943, when the 8th Air Force was first getting started, you see a lot of original footage and pictures of guys wearing these RAF Observer harnesses. This is a reproduction made by Joshua DeJong of the Rigger Depot. You got the original lock right here for all the straps. I don't have the pack for it yet, I just have the harness. I don't know if I'm going to get a pack yet. But yeah, it's a really, really nice reproduction. Got the original inspector stamp right there. So yeah, this is just a rundown of the flight gear that I'll wear. I'm going to make another video of my uniforms, my Class A uniform, Class B uniform, things like that. I just wanted to show off the flight gear that I'm going to be wearing when I go to Ohio in a couple weeks. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all later.